Hello folks, and welcome to the September edition of the car news. All the latest news here. Obviously last week we covered a lot of the goings on from the Munich Motor Show, so I'm not going to repeat myself in this one. Lots of sort of general motor industry news in this one, and then of course some new car stuff at the end. No sponsor on today's video. Please go and check out my website, notaguru.co.uk. Lots of good things there for you to enjoy, and of course you can also buy me a coffee there if you're a lovely person. Right, let's crack straight on with the first story, and it's this: UK petrol and diesel prices have gone up again, jumped by £4 a tank during August, bringing more pain at the pumps. But RAC Fuel Watch say that the pain at the pumps has been eased slightly by retailers restabilising their margins. Obviously, they were taking the absolute Michael earlier this year, last year, for example, but they have reined in their margins a little bit again now. So what they're saying is prices have gone up, but it would be much worse had they not have done that. Thanks. And as a result of that, and electric prices sort of stabilising, the cost of rapid charging your car using a public fast charger is now once again less than fueling a petrol or diesel vehicle. Also, home charging has obviously stabilised a bit as well, with sort of retail electricity prices coming down and overnight and flexible tariffs coming back into the market. We're on Auto Trader at the moment, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. In this one, we're just looking at Auto Trader and Auto Car. Look at this one, folks. The stolen car parts trade in the UK has had an absolute boom period, and police are finding twice as many of these chop shops as they did in the same period last year. A representative from Tracker basically said that car thieves are now sort of diversifying from their normal target audience. So instead of just taking Range Rover, Land Rover products, obviously the spare parts for those are mega expensive and everyone needs them all the time. They're now looking at more mainstream models as well, because the value's just there to them. They've even said that the end of production for the Fiestas created a new little cottage industry, because now that a car's no longer being produced, it's still massively popular and there are so many of them out on the road. There's a huge second-hand market for those parts. Your new Fiesta could be going walkies soon. They said one shop that was raided recently had dozens of cars in it and over 50 engines crated up and ready for shipping. This is an interesting one. You may not be aware of this, but it's an absolute nightmare trying to book a driving test at the moment. In some areas, the waiting time's like over a year, and obviously this creates a new chance for the scammers to rip people off. So they're using bots to book driving test slots and then selling them to the highest bidder. Much like if you want to go and see the pop star 𝙄𝙉𝙉𝙉𝙉𝙉𝙉, you'll try and buy tickets online. They've all gone and they're only available via resale sites for 2 or 3 times the price, because people are investing in bot technology to go in and do the job. It says that these touts are basically charging up to £400 to do your driving test. The official cost is £62 for weekdays and £75 for weekends or evenings. And there are also people advertising on things like TikTok and Facebook, offering to send in a lookalike to do your driving tests for you for a nice fee. Oh, it's crazy. What strange times we're in, folks. One person advertising on one of these platforms said that they could guarantee test dates for candidates within 3 weeks, and claimed driving instructors working with him are making an extra £400 to £600 a week selling tests to their pupils. So if your kids are out there learning to drive at the moment and they're offered an expensive test by their dodgy driving instructor, get them to tell them to bugger off and book a proper test. It may even be worth nowadays booking your test before you start your lessons, if you can find an instructor that will do that for you. Right, this is massively frustrating to me, and it's part of the reason I do a lot of the content that I do on my channel. Nearly half of consumers don't understand car finance. Car buyers struggle when it comes to number crunching, but interest in finance and alternative ownership models is rising. And if we go here, you'll see one of my useful guides is one on car finance, where I just go through the very, very bare bones basics of each of the finance options. People really need to understand car finance before they get into it, and so many don't. Even well-educated people that think they understand it really don't. And you have to do your comparison before you get into any kind of finance deal. And you should also look at the cost of buying a car for cash, because sometimes you're better off using some form of finance depending on when you want to get rid of the car. And obviously putting all your cash into that asset gives you an opportunity cost. So the fact that you've put 30 grand cash into a car over here means you haven't got 30 grand to invest over here. So these are all things that need to be made aware to people. I think people get missold car finance every minute of every day. And I think the biggest tool that the salespeople use is confusion. So do as much research as you can, understand it as well as you can, and subscribe to my channel. Mini Oxford gets the go-ahead to build new electric Minis in the UK. Mini's safeguarded the future of its Oxford factory with the announcement that the plant will transition to build electric Mini cars. This is brilliant. Obviously, you know, jobs were on the line there and stuff. They are now going to be building that new Mini in the UK. Great news. There have been a few good news stories about car manufacturing in the UK lately, and let's hope that continues. The EU are doing an investigation to probe the flood of cheap Chinese cars. An anti-subsidy investigation launched by the EU carries a threat of tariffs to make Chinese imports more expensive. There are two ways of looking at this. The EU may see all these Chinese cars coming over that are a lot cheaper than the established brands as a huge threat. What they're saying is that these cars are only cheap because they're being subsidised by the Chinese government. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Obviously, they manufacture things very cheaply in China for various reasons, environmental ones being part of it. But is this really an anti-competition kind of thing? Or is it the fact that they're losing GDP from the European car manufacturers, so they want to charge tariffs to get it back from the Chinese car manufacturers? I don't know enough about it to have a proper opinion, but anything that comes out of a politician's mouth I treat with extreme caution. It will be interesting to learn a little bit more about this, and certainly to see how it plays out. I think we touched on this in the last one, but car insurance premiums are still going through the roof. They're now up 48% in the last 12 months. The ABI say that insurers have paid out 2.4 billion in repairs and vehicle parts. That's a rise of 33%. The cost of replacement cars is up 29%, and personal injury claims are up 14%. And obviously, when money is tight, there's always going to be more fraud as well. That's not mentioned here, but I can tell you that fraud goes up when money is tight. And then because a lot of insurers have lost a lot of money in the car insurance market, lots of them are either pricing themselves out or literally withdrawing from the market. So the market's contracting. Whenever you get a smaller market, prices go up. That's just how it works. So grim times. Obviously, I'm well connected to the insurance industry, and it sounds like it's not going to stop. But I keep hearing of people pulling out or thinking about pulling out. And I don't see an end to this at the moment. Prices just keep going through the roof. The cost of claims is going through the roof. Insurers are getting a bit cuter in the way they deal with some claims, so they are starting to use remanufactured or used parts on occasion, which is something that didn't used to happen. But it's tough times for the punter who's left to foot the bill. BP opens the UK's largest electric car charging hub. The new Birmingham GigaHub features 180 EV charging points. This is right by Birmingham NEC, and it's got 30 300 kilowatt DC chargers, so obviously that's super fast. And then it's got 157 kilowatt chargers, which are the kind of chargers you have at home, so they're very slow chargers. You might be thinking, well, that's madness. Why would anyone use a 7 kilowatt? When you're at the NEC, you tend to be there for the day, don't you? You're not going to the NEC for 10 minutes. And if you are going there for 10 minutes, you've got 30 super rapid chargers. But for most people, probably the 7 kilowatt would be better. It's probably going to be a bit cheaper at source cost, I would suggest. It's better for your car to charge slowly than fast. And as I said, if you're going into the NEC, what's the minimum amount of time you're going to be in there if you're going to some kind of trade show or something at the NEC, or a concert or something? Probably 4 hours. In 4 hours on a slow charger, you'll get a reasonable amount of power into your car. Yeah, I think it's actually a really good shout. And BP have said they plan to open hundreds of these in the next decade at places where motorists are going to need them most. Especially places like motorways. UK road and pothole repairs fall to lowest level in 5 years. The government slammed as RAC report finds 29% repair reduction. Would now take 11 years to put everything right. I mean, that's just insanity. The amount of money that ends up costing people on car insurance as well is huge. UK government hints at extra flexibility around hybrids in the 2030 ban. British authorities have said that it will allow sales of combustion engine cars with a significant zero emission capability for 5 years after the initial ban, but has yet to define what it means. We can only assume really that this is going to mean plug-in hybrid vehicles with a considerable battery electric range, so could be north of 50 miles, could be north of 100 miles by then. Who knows? As usual with a bit of spiel from a politician, it's deliberately vague. So this is an interesting one. The BMW New Class, which was this kind of concept vehicle, which apparently is going to look very, very much like the new 3 Series when the new 3 Series finally appears. BMW is saying that although this is like a groundbreaking design, don't think it's just going to be on this car. This is a design language that's going to go through the range, and other models of new BMW are going to look very similar to this. I know this put cat amongst the pigeons. A lot of people absolutely hate the look of it, while a lot of people love it. But if you're a BMW fan, you need to get used to it, because this is a glimpse into the future, is what they're basically saying to us here. BYD to drop the Build Your Dreams badge in. Thank God for that, because it's blooming horrible. BYD has reacted to customer feedback and will drop the controversial Build Your Dreams badges from the rear of the Atto 3 and Seal, but remain on the entry-level Dolphin. Build Your Dreams is like one of those wall art things that you get from Dunelm or The Range and possibly put on your bathroom wall. It's got absolutely no business being on the back of the car. And for me, that honestly would put me off getting one. The fact it says Build Your Dreams on the back of it, I'd certainly remove it as quickly as possible. They're producing some nice cars, BYD, and that lets the side down. So I think that's a great move from them. What do you think in the comments? Do you want Build Your Dreams written on the back of your car? Leapmotor is going to come to the UK, another Chinese brand. That doesn't look anything at all like a Citroen C5 Aircross, does it? The brand's only 8 years old, but it's already had 3 new cars out. This one here is called the C10. That's going to be the first one coming to Europe, and UK sales are also in the pipeline. No mention of pricing or anything else really at this stage, so we shall move on. The new Omoda 5, which is going to be a rival to Nissan Qashqai, is coming to the UK, and it's going to start from 24 grand, which seems like a decent price for it. 1.6 litre TGDI petrol engine with 187 horsepower and 275 newton meters of torque, with a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox, fully electric version and a hybrid coming too. That could take a bit of business away from the Qashqai, could it not? Quite an interesting looking thing, and certainly on the face of it, it appears like someone's put some thought into the design. It's going to have CarPlay, Android Auto, all that kind of stuff, and the absolute top spec one's going to be about 27 grand, and that should be available from March next year, so keep your eyes open for that. New Volkswagen IDX7 Performance revealed as all-electric super saloon. Vauxhall's created a wild concept based on the ID7. Let's have a look at this. I don't think this works. I like a sporty saloon, but I just don't think this works. What you've got here is a very sensible looking car with a wing bolted onto it, and some sort of crazy wheels. And it doesn't work for me in the same way as something like a Civic Type R does, but maybe that's just me. This is just a concept, so there's no point talking about stats and stuff, but obviously this one's very lively. We'll see if that ever sees the light of day. I somehow think it might not, but who knows? New 2023 Kia EV5 SUV joins the brand's all-electric lineup. Kia introduces its new all-electric EV5 family SUV with a focus on comfort, space and practicality. So obviously it's taken huge design cues from the EV9. It just looks like a smaller one, and indeed it pretty much is just a smaller one. Interesting looking car, very nice looking interior. It's initially going to be launched in China later this year. And Kia has an EV Day event scheduled for October, so I'm guessing it will be announced for the UK at that event, but let's wait and see. Deliveries begin of the £6,000 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙉𝙆𝙎 electric quadricycle. Built as the UK's most affordable electric car, the 489 kilo two-seater gets a 50-mile range. Check this thing out. It looks a bit like one of those little blue cars that I remember old folks bombing around in my youth, before the days of the mobility scooter. Quite an interesting thing, isn't it? That is what you call a bold design. So 28 mile an hour top speed, much like the Citroen Ami, and a 50-mile range. Space for 2 adults and a dog. They'd have to be quite sort of narrow adults, I would imagine, looking at this thing, and maybe a very small dog. It's got a 3 horsepower motor powered by a lithium-ion battery. And finally, Peugeot E-3008 pairs bold redesign with 435-mile range. It's using a new EV-focused platform and offers 316 brake horsepower. Unfortunately, there's absolutely no discussion of price in this or any other article about this new car or anything else I've seen. That needs to be part of it. It's all well and good saying we're going to release a new car with a 435-mile range, but if that's a 50 grand car, they're not going to sell many of them. If it's a 30 grand car, they're going to sell all of them. Really, I think that's a bit of missing information, and I think more and more car manufacturers are doing this. They're coming out with like the big headline and giving absolutely no idea of pricing. But obviously this could be huge for them if they get the pricing right, because 435-mile range is quite a statement, and of course let's see if it lives up to that as well. That's it, folks. Thanks very much for watching this. Please give the video a thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you're lovely, please go and buy me a coffee, because it all helps. Thanks ever so much again. See you on the next one.